This month's Synod on Synodality began with the release of Pope Francis's apostolic exhortation on the environment, known as Laudate Deum. An exhortation is a letter to the faithful and all people of goodwill on a particular virtue or action that the Holy Father wants them to consider. Reporter Mark Irons tells us why the Holy Father says climate change is related to a broader moral issue, the dignity of human life.
So I became a climate scientist because of my faith.
Faith and science fit together. St. John Paul II once said science can purify religion from error and superstition. Religion can purify science from idolatry and false absolutes.
I asked God, what would you have me do?
Following prayer and discernment, a PhD in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences came next. For years, Dr. Jessica Mormon, an evangelical Christian, has studied climate change as a paleoclimatologist.
I study what climate was like in the past, using clues in the rock record, or as I think about it, God's creation.
Looking back into past climate records, comparing them to the present day, she says there's much agreement among scientists. The planet is heating up, and excessive carbon dioxide emissions caused by human activities such as burning fossil fuels are playing a big part in the warming. Mormon says the impact can already be felt. She pointed to the severity of droughts, floods, and other extreme weather events around the world as evidence of climate change.
Yeah, we are already seeing climate harm people, harm our communities, harm our loved ones in the here and now.
We spoke with her in early October, just days before Pope Francis released Laudate Deum, his apostolic exhortation addressing the harm caused by global warming, saying climate change is one of the principal challenges facing society and the global community, adding it is no longer possible to doubt the human, anthropic origin of climate change.
Is climate change today because of us or just part of Earth's natural cycle? Independent research from myself and my scientific colleagues across the country and across the world continues to point towards this is different. This is different than anything we've experienced in Earth's history. This is caused by us and our activities.
The response from Catholic leaders doesn't begin and end with Pope Francis. Pope Benedict was known by some as the Green Pope. In 2008, during his papacy, solar panels were installed at the Vatican. As of last year, the Holy See is now a participating member in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, a move acknowledging that scientific concerns give people of faith reason to pay attention. But the truth is, there is disagreement and division over how big of a problem climate change really is, especially among Christians. According to a 2022 Pew Research Center survey, 50% of all Christians in the U.S. consider climate change an extremely or very serious problem. Among Catholics, that number rises slightly to 57%, but falls to its lowest point among evangelical Christians, with only 34% calling it an extremely or very serious problem. As president and CEO of the Evangelical Environmental Network, a nonprofit group hoping to promote greater care for God's creation, Dr. Jessica Mormon has her work cut out for her.
And so we need more messengers that are coming from the church helping make that connection. A healthy environment, reducing pollution, advancing a safe climate is a pro-life issue.
In Laudate Deum, Pope Francis says the climate change issue is intimately related to the dignity of human life. In the U.S., climate change can often be an issue muddled by different factors.
People are not affecting climate change.
There are polarizing political voices.
Make sure that we end fossil fuels across the globe,
which seem to motivate how Catholics feel about the issue. According to the Pew survey, 82% of Catholics who are Democrats or Democratic-leaning say global climate change is an extremely or very serious problem, while just 25% of Catholics who are Republicans or Republican-leaning say the same. Then there are those who advance their own views, rejecting mainstream scientific claims about climate change.
We are in a period of warming.
Gregory Wrightstone, executive director of the CO2 Coalition, agrees the planet is warming, but he thinks it's happening naturally and not caused by human factors. To take it a step further, Wrightstone believes increased warming is a good thing, citing how historic civilizations have thrived during warm periods. And he also believes the atmosphere could use more carbon dioxide, or CO2, to increase the warming process, meaning he believes burning more fossil fuels will be good for the environment. The slogan of his organization, "We love CO2, and so should you."
If you're going to ask me, is CO2 increasing and the warming increasing a problem, I'd say absolutely not.
Wrightstone is a geologist who formerly worked in the fossil fuel industry. Mormon, a climate scientist, responds to the claim that more carbon dioxide is needed in the Earth's atmosphere. She says there can be too much of a good thing.
That we have reached uncharted levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. And so while a little bit of carbon is a good thing, too much can lead to disastrous effects.
Pope Francis has shown concern for creation since he wrote about it in his 2015 encyclical Laudato Si. That document was more theological in nature, whereas his latest work, Laudate Deum, is a shorter exhortation honing in specifically on the climate.
It's much more focused on one particular environmental problem.
Dr. David Cloutier, a professor of moral theology at the Catholic University of America, says Laudate Deum may not have a broad focus on fundamental principles of Catholic teaching, but he says that isn't surprising considering popes throughout history have spoken out on different, particular, pressing issues of the time and have felt the need to address them head on. In 1937, Pope Pius XI wrote an urgent letter to German bishops about confronting the growing threat of Hitler's rising regime in Germany.
And of course, he's not issuing timeless doctrinal statements about Hitler, but you better take this seriously. There are serious problems that are arising. So I would compare what Francis is saying here to what Pius said to the German bishops. It's not timeless teaching, but it nevertheless has a kind of urgency that Catholics should listen to.
Acknowledging a climate crisis, Pope Francis believes it will take an earth-wide effort, global collaboration to address the problem. He says the most effective solutions will not come from individual efforts alone, but above all from major political decisions on the national and international level. But in the very next paragraph, he stresses there are no lasting changes without cultural changes, without a maturing of lifestyles and convictions within societies, and there are no cultural changes without personal changes.
I think that is so powerful. It does not matter how many PSAs are on television or on internet banner ads about being green and the importance of being green. It won't change things unless people then take those messages and act on them.
Mark Irons, EWTN News In Depth.
In Laudate Deum, Pope Francis expressed hope that a United Nations climate conference next month in Dubai will be fruitful. He hopes the meeting, referred to as COP28, will present a change of direction.